so that every time they get online, you're showing up in front of them. And if you combine those like things together, all those transactional marketing activities that I just described, like I've seen companies go to $1 million ARR with just these things alone. Right before this, Tony, I mean, like, I feel it's just classic Monday, fire. So
yeah, I feel you there. Before we get started, there's one thing I have to do. Last time when I came on your podcast a few months ago, you flexed on me.
I love it, man.
With the shades.
Put it on.
I'm gonna have to return the favor.
You just gotta make it fun as the host, you know, like that's the biggest thing. So
yeah, I think I'm gonna get annoyed once I can't really see my screen after a minute, so I'll probably take them off. But at least I had to return the favor, at least initially.
I love it, baby. Oh, that's amazing.
Sweet. Let's dive in. So there's one thing I love about you and your content, and I think it's the reason that I've listened to every single one of your podcasts that you've put out, and that's that when I listen to your content, when I read your tweets, I feel like you're constantly sharing secret industry sauce with me, and that's kind of the idea I'm trying to put into this podcast. I want to get the experts in different fields to share their secrets with the audience, and I'm going to try to take you deep. I'm trying to get you to reveal the things that you don't want to reveal, and that's how we're going to roll it. What I want to talk today to you about is this tweet that you had. You said, I can literally make any B2B startup famous in 12 months in their industry with only a podcast, a newsletter about the podcast, and clips from the podcast. That's it. That's what I want to talk about. What are you thinking? How can I do this? Because that's why I'm starting this podcast here. You're the inspiration for that as well. So.
Oh, I love it, man. Yeah. So the idea behind this actually stemmed the work where we did at Rupa Health when I was there. They just got acquired for a couple $100 million, which is sick. Everybody I know got paid, so we're hyped. But anyway, yeah. So the concept there was like we were selling to practitioners and historically a really hard audience to get in front of. It was a health tech startup. Basically, it was a lab platform for like a marketplace for multiple different lab tests in a single location. These individuals are impossible to get in front of, and so you on their attention, right? Because they're traditionally high income earners. They have a lot of spending power, and so whether it's Facebook ads or LinkedIn or whatever, somebody's trying to sell something to them. And so realized that really early on, and we decided we were going to have to create some type of owned media channel as the way to create distribution that would scale non-linearly long-term, right? We knew it was going to be a long-term investment. And so that's really where it stemmed from. So this is like one of my initiatives that I did at the company was basically like 0 to 1 a podcast. I had no idea that anything about this, but my background is in degenerate growth marketing, and my job is basically figure out arbitrage and exploit it as much as you can, for as long as you can. But yeah, so what we ended up doing, taking the show, it's called the Root Cause Medicine Podcast, from non-existent to a top 20 podcasts in about 6 months. By the time I left, it was getting about 200,000 downloads a month, which is crazy. And then the bigger piece here is that we basically built an email newsletter on the back of the show, and people don't think that podcasts are marketing yet. And really they aren't, right? It's like a lot of it's just very educational content. And so due to that, when you email people this, you see that they open it, they engage with it. And I'll talk through all the tactical components of this, but just kind of want to frame the conversation to understand. But yeah, and so basically, the whole playbook is you have industry experts on that share their knowledge about the thing. You have the content be related to whoever the audience is that you're trying to sell to. So if you have whoever your ICP is, go and look at the most consumed shows within their category, and then you make a show basically similar to that. And then the other component of this is that long form content, you can basically chop that up like email newsletters, LinkedIn posts, Twitter threads, shorts for social, clips for YouTube, whatever output you can imagine. As a founder, for you, it does a couple of things. Like you basically are for an hour a week of your mental energy, which is your biggest resource constraint as a founder, right? There's only 3 resource constraints for companies. It's time, money, and mental energy. Depending on where you are in your kind of growth journey, those resources evolve and change. But the bigger thing here is that as a founder, you can do 1 hour a week to all of the content that you need across all the channels. And the bigger play here is that you can basically have a whole industry start to know that you exist through this process. Like I've done this plus times with companies. Great example was this company. It now doesn't exist. They ended up shutting it down, but they raised a ridiculous seed from Pear VC. It was basically a CRM for insurance agents, but we basically took them from they had 10 customers and nobody knew who they were to 12 months later, founders at an industry conference and she's getting inbounded by people that are like, yo, I love your show. I did this on this episode, and it like literally changed my business. Like, how can I, how can I help you? How can I introduce you to other people? So, but yeah, man, happy to talk about the tactical stuff as well. Any questions that I can try to answer kind of about the idea?
Yeah, for sure. So I think there's a few concepts that we can go into. I think you start with the idea of scraping emails, and then putting those people on ad list, doing the cold email, and then doing the podcast to kind of generate all the content there. I think one place that, before we jump into those things, I think one place we could start with is this idea you have of digital gravity. You talked about it with Greg on his podcast the other day. I think that's something else that I think would help frame this a little bit for people, and then we can dive into like, where do I start? Like, this is the episode of the podcast. Where should I start? What do I need to do?
Yeah, totally. I'll just walk you through like your whole growth strategy if I was in your shoes. So first off, so digital gravity, it's how I think about traditionally you think about marketing as like a funnel. That's like the the thing that everybody has talked about for the last 20 years in internet marketing. I think that's a really poor representation of how people actually buy things. And it's pretty funny when you take a step back and they call it a campaign, right? Like I run a marketing. So the reason they call it a marketing campaign is the homies came back from World War II. They went and worked in advertising in New York, and they were like running campaigns in the army. And so they're like, we're running a campaign in the advertising world. That is why it's called that. So first off, like a couple fundamental things, like the biology of a campaign. Like historically, a campaign starts and it stops. Right. There's like a point where it ends. And the reason you had to do that is like a lot of the times because of resources. Now with companies, the whole environment is entirely changed. Like if you don't do marketing, you're doing marketing. You're constantly doing that, right? Yep. And so that is this core concept of like this digital gravity piece. So like how I think about digital gravity is like rather than a funnel where like people enter the top and they come out the bottom and they buy the thing, but how people really purchase is like they orbit around a company, and then at different points in time, they're like buyer ready. They're closer to that company and more willing to purchase. And so how do you like to expand on this gravity idea, like when you're trying to make a company famous, right? And within an industry, and this is like so critical for startups because nobody trusts you when it's like, it's you and two friends, and maybe you raise some money, or maybe you're like, okay, I'm cash flowing it from another thing or whatever. Like they don't know you exist. They have no trust. And so this way that you can build that is by building content. And so you have these like social, like the social proof that you can build through the vehicle of social media and content and podcasts and YouTube channels and all of these things that basically allow for you to build this trust. But when you think about this idea of like how do you garner influence? Again, the analogy I use is this idea of gravity. So like if you're a small object in space, right, you have a super small amount of area that you're influencing around it, right? The more mass you build, the more gravity you have. The more gravity you have, the more influence you have within your niche. And how do you build that mass? You build that content that is related to your audience, your niche. And so that's like the whole concept. And again, we can get into all the tactical pieces of it, but that is how I want people to like think about, like, discard the funnel. This is where to go. So.
Yeah, I think the first time I heard you describe this idea of gravity, it just really resonated with me so much more than the idea of a funnel, because that's how I purchase products personally. It feels like, okay, I see them on Twitter and like, that's interesting. And then, maybe I see an ad 2 months later, and then maybe I get a cold email from the founder. And by that time I'm warmed up. I already know it's a product that exists. And like, that's how I make buying decisions. And it generally feels like you're building trust rather of just like to like maximize. And like, I feel like the world of funnels has honestly feels a little bit scammy to me these days, like the way that people are running that. So I think founder really it resonates with me a ton more.
Totally. And I think a funnel is like a way more bottom of funnel thing, right? Like it's like, for example, paid ads, right? Like Facebook or Google ads. I'm sending them to a landing page, and then I'm like, trying to get a conversion action, like an activation event to happen, and then for them to pay me. Like that is funnel optimization. Like that in its core, like it's a very linear thing that's happening. Like you're buying this keyword phrase, they're clicking this ad, they're landing on this landing page, and they're making an action. But again, how people actually finally get to that point, like again, when you're trying to build brand, or you're trying to build or get people to buy like higher ticket items, what this really comes down to is like how much time have they spent with you. And like another way to think about this is like, I mean, sales is just one-to-one, right? Like you're one-to-one convincing a person or like basically getting in relationship with them. Marketing is a one-to-many sales activity. I actually think that marketing is sales. You're trying to convince people to do an action, but you're doing it in a one-to-many setting. And when you think about like the scale that you can get this to, like, I mean, right now I can go spin up a Facebook ad campaign to target everybody in the US that's a small business owner and ads that are going and trying to like get people to sign up for a software that's an AI agent that answers their phone for them, right? Like I can get in front of 2 million people for like nothing, right? But how do I like, and there's all these tactical things that you have to do. So it's like, yeah, maybe that first ad, they see something, right? And they go and they click the website, but majority of those people aren't going to purchase anything. They're not going to do anything. No. So what do? You pixel them, and then you show up on Facebook. You show up on YouTube. Maybe they sign up. You do an email drip nurture campaign. It's all these layers of things, creates all these different touch points. And again, that's how you add to that digital mass that you have. Like when you layer them onto each other, that's like actually how you make companies grow extremely quickly, right? It's like, okay, cool. I did this one activity. I maxed it out. I automated and delegated. Okay, cool. I do this next activity. I maxed it out. I automated. I delegated. And you just keep doing that infinitely. And when you look at the highest growth companies, they're always doing the same thing. The mediums that they're doing it in are different, right? Like Airbnb, like I love the Airbnb one because people are always like, oh, like they just built a great product and people came. I'm like, bullshit. That has not happened. They were cannibalizing people that were searching for this on Craigslist. That was their go-to-market motion in the beginning. Yeah. They were using a platform to basically acquire the first user. Every company, it functions like that. Every company that it's a high-growth company. And so, anyway, not to digress too far, but
no. I think now that we've kind of laid the frame for the digital gravity, I think maybe it makes sense to tell you a little bit about my new company that I'm essentially starting from zero right now, and then we can dive into like what are the next steps for me.
I love it.
So I think maybe you can roast my landing page a little bit here. I listened to your episode the other day about landing. I immediately went and changed my headline and my subtitle. So here's what I have. The customer engagement platform for software companies that love their users, build automations that increase activation and reduce churn. So essentially what I'm building is for SaaS. I'm making it super easy to import all of your event data, all of your Stripe data, join that in one place, and then send automations that help you activate users and retain those users. So
what I'm hearing is like what a customer wants to buy is they want to activate users, right?
Yes.
And so like how I would probably position it is like activate users through based off of your Stripe data. Very specific, describes the exact thing that you're trying to do. And like for most people, right, like how they actually buy is they have an outcome that they're trying to purchase, and you're the vehicle to get them to that outcome at an easy. They're buying the bridge, right? Because again, if we get back to like what are their limited resources? Time, money, mental energy. So it's like they could build this if they have a ton of time, but they probably don't have a ton of time. That's why they're buying it. They probably have some type of budget, and the mental energy component of like they don't want to have to go and focus on this. So if you're selling them back time, money, and mental energy, that's that's like the thing that you're selling. But the thing that you're getting them to is basically a state of life, a state of existence that they want to be in, that your product is basically helping them arrive at. So, but anyway, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good. I think that's exactly what I was looking for. So what's my first step then in starting to build digital gravity?
Yeah, I think what I would think about is like, who is your target customer? Like literally like what title, like what is this company size that they're at? Like who's going to be the decision maker? Probably sounds like a dev. It's going to be an engineer, is what I'm guessing.
Well, I'm not sure. I think maybe my target is founders of small to early stage SaaS companies, at least initially.
Okay, cool. So that's great. So you've defined that. So it's founders, maybe it's heads of growth, maybe it's heads of marketing. So anybody
whoever's thinking about activation and churn at a SaaS company, I think
that's great. So that's what I would like. Literally, the first thing I would go do is I'd go to Perplex and be like, what are the job titles that think about activation and churn at a startup? It's probably product, like heads of product as well. Whoever those individuals are, basically build out like that criteria of who those individuals are. And then the next thing you would do is be like, okay, how would a company like this, or is like, how would those individuals try to find something like this? So I'm going to break this down into phases. So phase one is you do very transactional marketing activities. So what I mean by that is like, I'm doing something now that's going to make revenue tomorrow, right? So this is traditionally paid ads. It's DMs, it's a ton about that. It's cold email. And like actually we're starting to see this influencer play where like they have an audience and you do an affiliate commission structure with them, specifically on YouTube. I used to not categorize this actually as like being a transactional form of marketing. I'm starting to believe this more and more. Like, for example, I go to YouTube influencers that are building out, systems that are, for example, we did this with Swell, right? Where we're like, hey, if they've done reviews on like CapCut, or if they've done reviews on like Descript, like we fit into their audience will find content that's similar to like what we're doing valuable. So let's go to them, and I'm going to go email 100 people. And I'm going to be like, okay, what's your cost for a 3-video package? And we'll also give you a 30% affiliate commission on anything you drive to us. Wow. They come back with their pricing, and then we rank stack basically off of who is the most undervaluing themselves of that list of 100 that we contacted. There's going to be 10 of them that you select. You go work with those 10, and then 2 to 3 of them are going to be the best performers. And then you basically discard the rest that aren't high performers, and you move those 2 to 3 into where they're doing a video a month. And then you start the process over. Okay. Contact 100 people, go down. So, but the reason for this is when you like YouTube, traditionally those people that are doing these YouTube, like their audiences have a lot of trust in those people already. So they can get them to make user actions, right? Like they can get them to go do this thing if it's relevant to them. The other piece is that it's like a very straight line of that purchase decision. Like they watch YouTube video, they click affiliate link, they got sign up. You can quantify the value of this in contrast to doing like shorts. Like there's tons of these people that are doing shorts or all this and that. It's just like a very hard, again, for B2B, it's just hard to quantify like what's actually working. And I don't think that most people make purchasing decisions on B2B from short. Like again, it depends on your pricing as well. And maybe we get into that next actually is like what you're thinking about this as. Because there's different marketing tactics depending on the pricing that they're like the purchasing decision size that they're going to make. And just to give context, like I used to work at a B2B marketing agency where like we were marketing people's products that were like, I mean, imagine like shower bases, doors, windows, like wood, like that. Like one of the companies was this company called Boise Cascade. We're talking about purchasing decisions that happened over a 5-year period, right? But like in the hundreds of millions of dollars, how do you market to somebody during that period, like through that whole sales cycle, right? So anyways, just to get back to it, so like the bigger the price point, the longer time horizon, the longer form content traditionally, like to think about that access, the more you're going to charge them, the more time they need to spend with you before they make that purchase decision. So anyway, talk to me about pricing because that'll 100% influence all of this.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm thinking usage-based pricing. So essentially based off of the number of tracked users per month. So essentially we have all this user data flowing in. We're tracking the user profiles. Based on the total number of users who did any event, the pricing will be based on that. It'll probably start for free. Once you hit a certain point, you start getting charged based on usage. Pretty similar to like Segment or I think how Mixpanel also works.
I think that's great. I love that. So talk to me. How would somebody go and find this? Like, they're a product manager. Like, we know our activation's messed up. We know our churn's messed up. We're having customer interviews that are qualitative, that are qualitative. But we want to get some more like quantitative data. Like, what would be their what would they search even to go and find this? Yeah,
they might search how to increase activation. How do I reduce churn for my SaaS? Depending on what the problem is. One of those two things.
No, I think that's great. I mean, I'll literally screen share if you want, and we can I'll show the process of this is how I would step by step go through and actually do this. So I would look at how to increase activation for SaaS, right? And I would just try to get an understanding of what are people actually searching for. Maybe it's SaaS activation software. And again, activation software for software. And again, all it identifies how would people go and find something. Another angle could be churn software. That's a really high level keyword. That's great. Relatively-ish competitive, not insane. So I would look at something like this.
What's that Chrome extension you got there? I think I need to download or install.
Yeah. This one's called Keywords Everywhere. They owe me so much money for how much I show this, but I need to just build one at some point, honestly, because how much I use it. But so what this is showing here is the volume for that keyword phrase, and then also how competitive it is. So I would look at all these, and it's like reduce customer churn, right? All are probably going to be competitors. They might not be the same exact product, but it might be just a jump point for you to start thinking about, okay, how are they positioning themselves? How are they talking about it? And then how can we basically differentiate so that we can go deeper? Like we can, go deep, be more successful than them, right? So I'd go like at a Curly, they're bidding on that keyword phrase. I would go to SEMrush, SEMrush or Ahrefs. Either of them will work. And basically just look on their paid traffic. What are they bidding on? I see this, I immediately think that this is a venture-backed company. So that would like immediately adjust how I would think about how I would be approaching like my marketing strategy. They're bidding on all of these other brands that are doing stuff that's similar, Recharge, ChargeBee, etc. Which means that it's probably a really aggressive market, right? So average CPC for one of these brands names is ChargeBee. So immediately when I see this, I would say, hey, I wonder if I can find people that use ChargeBee and then email them and be like, hey, you're spending a ton of money on ChargeBee. I would like be my cold email strategy. So looks like total live sites. There's 9,000 of them. You can scrape that whole list for $500 from Built With. And you take that list and you go to something like Apollo and you go and you pull out whoever you would think would be the decision maker there. So Jeep Form, whatever.
So going back to that ICP profile that we already created.
Got it.
Looking for those same people at those companies. Yep. Exactly.
And like this is again, I quickly digressed into cold email thing. Why I'm talking about this or why I'm expressing this is that when I see this, and it all depends on how the funding structure of your organization looks, right? If I see CPCs that are super high like this, like $16, I immediately think, okay, this is a crazy market for me to come and compete with on the Google ads side for CPC ads. And so I'm going to have to figure out some type of strategy that is going to be like way more hacky to do this. I'm just going to start writing notes as I like think about them. Sorry. So just to like make sure I don't forget this. So like I would look at ChargeBee versus content for SEO. I would do cold email to Built With list. We're going to talk through all of this. And then I would do I would look at like all the competitors of ChargeBee, verse. And then I would also do that same Built With list like poll for all of their competitors. And then the other thing that you could go after is you can do Google Performance Max ads to that list or keyword list. Now, again, I'll talk through all these things. And then also I would do Pixel all traffic for remarketing. All right.
Yeah. One thing. One of the first integrations I built is with PostHog, which is just an event tracking tool. On their website, they have a list of feature requests. One of the for them to build, one of the top ones right now, and has the most upvotes, is an email automation tool for PostHog. So for people to send emails based off of PostHog events. So I think that's going to be one of my first strategies, is just reaching out to PostHog users saying, hey, I built this if you want to automate emails with your PostHog.
I think that's literally brilliant. So that same Built With strategy, right? I would go and I would find everybody with the PostHog usage, which is insane how much they contracted, right?
Wow.
But I would pull every one of them, same thing, and then find those target, like whoever the job titles are at these at these companies, go and basically target those people. And it may be that you go and you email literally every person there, right? And you say like, hey, we helped the email structure we're seeing work the best right now is like, hey, name, something they hate, like talk about the pain point, right? Or like, for you, and we can actually break this down, but I'll just like do the high level framework. And then we helped X company do Y thing in Z time. And then just something simple, like interested in learning more. That's it. That is like literally, we have an email that we're sending right now. It has a 97% open rate, and it is similar. It is like this, and it's just.
What are you doing for the subject?
Subject line. So it's basically like outcome they wish they could get. And like I'm not going to talk about the specifics of like the one we're sending, just because like it's for Landing Cat, so I'm just not talking about it at the moment. But like one that we did for Swell when we were doing this for webinars is like AI webinar content repurposing, right? That was the subject. So outcome they want, which is content repurposing of their webinars. AI, so it is intriguing. And then talk about you recorded all these webinars, or we've been talking to people and they record all these webinars, but they just sit in their content library after they get recorded. We helped X company repurpose this amount of episodes in 90 days, which basically made Z amount of new inbound leads from their old product catalog from their old content catalog that they already had. Interested in learning more, performs incredibly well. And the reason for that is because, again, you're basically enticing them with what is the outcome you want, and let me tell you how I have this bridge to get you to that thing, right? So, all right, so I'm just gonna run through these really, really fast. But so obviously ChargeBee, and I would go to SEM. So this would be an SEO strategy. Actually, before we do that, let's talk through Let's talk through all of the transactional things that you would do first, and then move on to the long-term commitments, if that makes sense, or the long-term investment. So short-term things. So we got a cold email strategy, right? We just showed that. Go to, built with, find all the people using PostHog, be like, hey, we built the system to do email automation based off of events. Interested in learning more? Boom. That's that. You've got that cold email piece locked in.
About the cold emails, are you running follow-ups on these cold emails, or are you just the initial email that's good?
I'm only doing a 2 email sequence right now, especially for startup stuff. The reason for that, I'm hitting them in over a 2-day window. Everybody has their opinion. This is just what I see work. So take that with a grain of salt. Please, for the love of God, cold email community, don't come after me. They do all the time on Twitter. It's hilarious to me. I have no opinion. Dude, I'm reporting the data.
Those guys are crazy, man.
Dude,
the cold
it's
email
insane.
Community they're nuts.
It's insane. Anyway, so what we're seeing work right now is I do a 2 email sequence. No links in the first email. It's just that outcome-based structure that I'm talking about. Email the day after. That's circling on this, interested in learning more. Literally, that's it. My goal is to try to contact as many people as I can in a month, right? Okay. And so that's why I'm only doing a 2 email sequence, is because that allows for me to contact more people than if I do a 4 or 5 email sequence, right? Because I have to wait, and then it's this whole period and blah, blah, blah. So what I found is that I can go and I can use something like MailReef, which is a cold email inbox infrastructure company, 400 a month, and you can send about 50,000 cold emails a month from one of these one of these servers that they build for you. And so what that translates into is I can basically, with a 2 email sequence, I can basically contact 25,000 people in a month for $500, right? It's fucking insane. Of course I'll do that. The other one that's good is called Hypertide. Just shouting all these ones out that I've seen good success with lately. And then the other one is called Thor's Hammer. My friend runs op there. Hold on, cold email. Just another company that I know is doing good work in this space. So one of those 3, combine those with something like an instant lead or a smart lead. And the reason you're using those is basically you can just plug these SMTP inboxes that they generate right into these. And again, you can go and start doing cold on these that just, again, we're seeing these inboxes work as good as Gmail or Outlook, so that's why we go there, right? So for you, then it comes back to cool, okay, now, say you wanted to email 1 million people a month, right? Say you wanted to send 1 million cold emails a month. So you can start to work that number, that math backwards, where it's okay, cool, I'm sending, so I'm technically contacting 500,000 people. I expect a response rate of maybe 3 to 5%. And then you can start to work that funnel down of okay, here is basically my cost per lead. If I go and I email, or send 1 million cold emails in a month, this is what I can expect from a lead volume standpoint. The other side of this is if you're trying, the actual numbers behind this, if you're trying to send 1 million cold emails a month right now, you can send that for $8,000, right? That's insane. This has never existed in the same way. Yeah. there's been forms of it, but we're kind of in this like we're in a special moment right now. I'm pretty gassed about it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man. Any questions about it I can try to answer, and then we can move on to the next.
Yeah, the idea of sending a million cold emails a month gives me anxiety because of all the replies I'd be getting. Like, how do you manage those replies? How are you converting those replies from leads into signups or demos? Or,
hire VAs, baby.
How you
I mean, you can get.
Yep.
Yeah, you can get offshore talent right now, like executive virtual assistants for like $1,500. My brother just like literally started a company in this space called Talent Fiber. He was doing it for the medical world because that's what he's been in for the last like 7 years. They hired all of this offshore talent, and he's like, dude, I can get you like basically anybody you want. Who do you need for the your company? So we've been hiring from. It's been some of the most cracked people I've ever worked with, and like again, just insanely cheap. But yeah, get them in there, give them a SOP. Like this is the process. I mean, you're just having them work inboxes. It's not, it's not rocket science. The other side of it is you could probably plug it up to Gumloop if you really wanted and build out an AI system that like answers the questions based off of some docs that you provide. That's the, entirely automated way. There's also the human way. The best is probably a hybrid of both where like the AI is writing the first draft and then the human comes in and curates it. That's what we're seeing be the best outcomes. But again, it just depends on the resources that you have available. That's the whole thing with all of this. So
okay. So just grab some VAs, stick them in the Instantly account. Tell them, if someone's interested and they're qualified, book them on a demo with me. It seems easy.
Totally. So you're doing that. So that same list, you then go and you cold DM them on LinkedIn. You can use a software called Phantom Buster. All right. They have all these automations. You basically the one you can use is their LinkedIn Auto Connect. So it basically connects and then sends a message to them. You can send like 3 follow-up messages if you want. Again, I would just try to contact as many people as you humanly can. When you do that, you're also going to build this audience. It's going to be valuable in the future. So when you're making content that is in the form of posts and shorts that's coming from the podcast, you then take that and that just starts getting distributed out to your audience. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's get back to the transactional stuff. So
with the LinkedIn real quick, are you just targeting like LinkedIn followers, or are you targeting conversions the same way as
I'm targeting
as
cold, right? So like that same list that we just scraped from Built With, and then we used Apollo to pull. I'm going to take those same LinkedIn URLs, those profiles. I'm going to put them into like a Google Sheet, right? And then I'm going to then go to Phantom Buster, and I'm going to connect that Google Sheet to Phantom Buster, and then it's going to do those auto DMs for me. I think I can't remember how many. It's like you can do like 10 a day or something like that. It's something crazy, right? But like again, you're going to still just continue to build this outbound motion that you can. Again, another thing you can do: go hire VAs or spin up fake profile. There's a million ways to do this. I literally have a homie that does this where he like spins up fake female profiles that work as SDRs at his company, and they're like constantly DMing people, right? And then you have to infrastructurally set this up so it works so that you don't get like fucked, but it works. So again, you're just finding these arbitrages based off of like whatever is most likely to work. So
and immediately thinking plugging my other company here, Drippy.ai, going to take that same list, figure out what the X accounts for those people are, and hit them in the DMs on X as well.
100%. And like again, you can pull. There's so many databases that have this. Like you know this better than anybody, right? So then the paid ad strategy. Let's talk about that because that's going to be kind of the one that gets a little bit hard here. So how I would think about this is, and actually maybe before we go do that, let's talk about the YouTube play. So YouTube, what I would go see, and more it's just to see if this is like even possible. I would go and I would look at like how to PostHog. And I would see if there's people like doing videos about PostHog, right? Cool. Here's this homie, 351 views, not a lot. But I can go and I can find his email address, right? And I won't do this just to not dox the man. But I can go and I can hire some dude on Fiverr. He'll go scrape everybody that has done a PostHog video with like the specifications of whatever I define, right? Where it's like, hey, I want smaller creators that are under X amount, whatever that ends up being. You go and reach out to all of them and you're like, hey, I want to do a sponsored video post. This is the email, literally the email that we're seeing be really successful with this right now is structured like this. It's like subject is paid collaboration. And then it's like, hey name, Love the content you're making on YouTube. Can I get pricing for a 3-video package and 30% affiliate commission with a 30% affiliate commission?
So you're going.
I'm looking
with these guys. You're going both affiliate and upfront for the videos.
Yep. The reason for that is 2 things. So the 3-video package is what we found to be the most impactful. When you do 1 video, it's kind of like a flash in the pan. But that 3-video arc, the people, like their audience is like, oh, this person actually believes in this, right? It gives you like a better data set to make a decision whether you want to work with this person long term. The 30% affiliate commission is so that you create a lock-in with them long term, so that they are like if they're going to check from you every month, the last thing they want to do is erode that relationship with you, right? And so it creates a moat in basically an affiliate influencer remote for you. And then literally what I would have them do is like have them do a build out with the software. Like they're doing PostHog shit, be like, yo, like here's how, talk. I want you to talk about this, basically show the build out process. So again, you're going to reach out to 100 people. You're going to get all of their costs back. Bring that into a spreadsheet, and you're going to look at their their average views per video, their total subscriber count, and then what their cost is for that 3-video package. And then you're going to rank stack them against each other, right? Like, oh, these 10, they're underpricing themselves based off of the market rate. Why does this work? Like, let's break down the principles of this. So we just identified a market, identified a market inefficiency. So that means there's an arbitrage. If you go to like one of these influencer portals, right, where they have like all these influencers that you're messaging, that creates a more liquid market. I want an illiquid market. That's where you're going to find the greatest opportunity when you're doing marketing, right? And so what you're doing here is basically this exact strategy. You go in and you identify those people. You do this, do a run with them. 2 to 3 of them are going to be like outperform the rest. You're going to be able to see that within the affiliate commission data that you're posting out. Then you move them to a 1 video a month setup. And then you go and you start to cycle over and again. But what this gets to, and like literally I have a friend that built a company doing this, like in 18 months went to 5 million ARR entirely with this. This is his only marketing strategy. This is his only marketing strategy. And long story short, the he now has I think it's 100 affiliates that are in the network that he pays on a monthly basis. They do a video a month, right? So he has 100 videos drop about his product in a month. It just saturates YouTube. The knock-on effect that happens from this is that when other creators see that these videos are getting views, then they will naturally go and do it for themselves, right? And so it creates this growth loop that's greater than the inputs that you're putting in. You're putting $1 in, and 6 months from now, that $10 are going to come out basically, right? That's the gamble, the bet you're making. So, anyways, any questions around that before we move on?
No, man. I think that's all pretty straightforward. I think you went super deep there, and I think I know exactly what I need to do on that front now. So, yep.
Cool. Yeah, and then the final thing is the paid ad side.
I'm getting excited.
So the paid ads, you're competing in a really competitive space, right? I mean, we saw the charge be CPC is, what did we say it was? It was $24 or 25. Yeah, 20. This is saying 4, but I think what we saw is 20. Yeah, something around there. So really going to be hard to go and compete on that. So what you're going to do is you're going to use what are called Google Performance Max ads. And what Performance Max ads allow for you to do is you can target individuals that have searched a keyword phrase previously, and then you can go and show display ads to them across Google's owned ad network. So this would be Gmail, YouTube, Google, any of these places, right? And I would only do their owned ad network. I wouldn't do the extended AdSense network. The reason for that is because there's all these bot farms that will click on the ads on these websites because they get paid if they get clicks off of their niche website, right? Which is showing this. So you're just going to get shit traffic. To only target Google-owned properties. Mm-hmm. But what this is going to allow for you to do is basically go and target those individuals that have the buyer intent you're looking for. And then you're running display ads to them everywhere, right? So then they're gonna click, you're gonna see clicks at a tenth the cost that you would normally pay if you're bidding on those same keywords. Yep. Same people, same search intent in the past, but cheaper. Go ahead.
What are you putting in those display ads? What are those ad creatives?
Yeah. So just creative, like it's classic creative, right? So like YouTube, it would be like a YouTube video, like that's like I try to always have it be a teaser. Honestly, you could probably just do like an AI avatar talking through the pain point, problem solution orientation, and then it's display ads as well, right? So like the classic cards where it's like a 4x3 card, or I think it's like it's not a 9x16, it's like a 1x1.9, so like a classic banner ad. So it's just banner ads basically that you're running. But again, it's banner ads that you're running to people that have searched previously for the thing that you know has the search intent for whatever it is. I mean, you could go the PostHog, like anybody search PostHog, right? Then you go and you basically are remarketing to them. So they're going to click that ad, they're going to hit your website, you pixel them across all the channels, across Facebook, across Google ads, across LinkedIn ads. And then you're going to go and you're going to show display ads to them indefinitely into the future so that every time they get online, you're showing up in front of them. And if you combine those like things together, all of those transactional marketing activities that I just described, like I've seen companies go to $1 million ARR with just these things alone. So,
wow, okay.
But
and then what are you thinking about the other platforms? Sorry, are we running Facebook ads as well? Are we running LinkedIn ads?
Yeah. So you'll run those, but I wouldn't do top of funnel just because it'll be hard to target the individuals that you know are the correct the correct type. You might be able to find it out or figure it out on Facebook. Like for example, you probably can target product managers or these job titles. Or people with like a YC interest, or people in the Greater Bay Area. There's probably a roundabout way. I personally would probably, all of my top of funnel would focus on the Performance Max because it's a very it's a way more qualified for type of traffic than what I would get from like a generic Facebook ad. Like I can't target people that have a charge B interest on Facebook, most likely. I'd have to look at their audience segmentation, but
one of the things I've heard you say in the past is you take that initial email list that we scraped and we upload it into all these platforms. Are you saying we shouldn't do that, or
you could totally do that. Sorry, that's another angle of this. I totally missed that, but so that list that we scraped, you do a customer match list into Facebook and into LinkedIn. You can also do it into Google Ads. You're going to see about like 30 to 40% of those people actually get matched. But what that will allow for you to do is, again, just like you're just trying to be everywhere that they could potentially be. But I would probably, again, just based on experience, majority of my ad spend would probably go to those Performance Max ads just because I know how cheap they are and just because I know how qualified that traffic would be. So say I did a scrape of product managers or, again, it depends on how big your audience is. Product managers, you can probably get around like 750,000 of them from Apollo that are in the US. That's probably a big enough list that you could go and put it into Facebook. And if you run a good enough ad, you could probably get a CPC around, I'm guessing like 20 to 25 cents once you optimize it down. This is just based on what I'm seeing. We're running like AI avatar UGC ads right now to like lists that are 100,000 people and seeing this, right? Like I'm doing this to it for this company, like currently, and seeing that result. But anyway,
I'd love to hear more about the AI avatar process. That sounds super
totally. Yeah. So the whole thesis is like ads that don't feel like ads are the best performing ads. So you're trying to get as far as you can to like where it doesn't feel like an ad, but it's actually an ad. And so what we're seeing like work right now is you basically make content that feels like it's native to the platform. How we're doing that and like how people have been doing that in like D2C for forever, for example, is they use UGC ads, so it's user generated content. When I say that, all you think about is like, somebody in their living room like filming themselves, right? Filming themselves. So historically, if I wanted to go buy a UGC ad, I'd have to go to an app like Billo, and I would pay, $100, $80 to $100 to have somebody like do a 30 to 60 second script for me. So if I wanted to make 100 different ad variations, that would cost me like, we can do that math. Like that would cost me around $8,000, right? So in contrast, I can go make 100 ad variations. So I have AI write the script. I take that script, I go into HeyGen, go into 11 Labs. I have an 11 Labs voice speak it. I take that voice out, I put it into HeyGen. And then I take that HeyGen and I clip it out so that it like all the word gaps removal, I add captions. That's it. That's like what we're doing right now and what we're seeing working. So I can go test 20 different ad creatives. They're all focusing on different things, right? So like 20 of them are focused on pain point 1. 20 of them are focused on pain point 2. 20 of them are focused on pain point 3. And then I do like a ridiculous hook, right? It's like our client, they're a scribe, an AI scribe for therapists, and it's like therapists, you need to listen. Therapists, you need to hear this, right? So like that is the hook. We're targeting therapists.
The target customer, your therapist. Yep, got
hook.
it. Okay.
And then it's like, okay, like what is the pain point? They hate writing case notes. So then we just like be like you didn't get into this to write case notes, right? Or whatever. And then take that. And and again, why I'm referencing that, I just like saw this like in the last like week, like for a client, so that's why I'm talking about it. But and then basically you introduce the product as the hero, as the solution that gets them to their end. And like a lot of the times, we're not even introducing the product, like it doesn't even feel like an ad until you're at the end of it. You're just talking about this pain point, blah blah blah, and like talking about how much it sucks. And then right at the end, you're like, oh, and there's this company called X, and they help you do Y. And oh, if you want to learn more, click the link, right? So it feels like this like natural storytelling. Again, once we optimize those down, I mean, this is a B2B ad that I'm running, and I'm getting like 20-cent CPCs on like Facebook ads, right? It's crazy. It's fucking insane. Yeah. So anyway, just what we're seeing work. So that customer match list, so you take, again, what we did that PostHog scrape with from Apollo, you import that into Facebook, it's going to match those people. Again, it's not going to be a one-to-one. You're going to maybe get 30 to 40%, but then you can run those ads directly to them. So,
sweet, perfect. Looks like you have something. It looks like you have something coming up after this. So we'll try to wrap it up in the next 13 minutes here. Last thing I want to talk about is the podcast aspect of it. How do we? Yeah. What's the podcast playbook? How are we scaling the newsletter around it, and like how are we tracking success of the podcast?
I love it, man. That's perfect. So. Next thing that you're going to do, we're going to talk about this podcast play. The angle here, so that list that you just scraped, what you're going to try to do is build an asset that you own that long-term is going to be cheaper than the cost that you're paying for the traffic that you're getting from your paid ads and your cold outbound strategies. So what do I mean by that? When you build out an email list on the back of this podcast, what you can do is like, and this is like, we literally see this. We have a client, they're in the biotech space. Like every send that we do, it drives about 10,000 clicks to their homepage of their website. Okay. They have 140,000 people on their list that we've built for them. That same CPC is like $2 on LinkedIn, right? So we're paying basically 1 cent. So like in a month, we drive about like 80,000 clicks for them to their homepage of their website from the same people they're trying to get like paid ads for. We pay about 1 cent per click in comparison to the $22 that you're paying on LinkedIn, okay? How do we do this? So built a show that is specifically about their industry, about their audience, right? And then the content is like focused on something they would find valuable or interesting. And then that same list that you scraped, you go and you just cold sequence them into an email sending provider, right? So and the reason this works, there's a couple components of this. The reason this works, though, is because the content, if it's educational, then you don't get flagged to spam complaints because they don't think that it's marketing. They're like, oh, this is free educational content related to something that I find valuable within my industry. So this is why it's critical to not start this until you understand your ICP thoroughly, because you don't even know what content or what site, what's going to be important to them or valuable to them. And then you cater that to that. So like I'm doing this right now for Landing Cat, right? Like marketers and founders, those are the two people. What do they want? They want to grow their e-commerce startup faster. So I literally have on e-commerce experts and I'm like, yo, tell me everything you know about landing page building and funnel optimization on top of those. Yo, tell me everything you know about page speed optimization to increase CRO. Yo, tell me everything that you know about email marketing through Klaviyo, right? That content is absolutely what they want to hear because it makes them make more money. Traditionally, that is basically what you're selling people most of the time is like, how do you make more money? And then that content, again, when you sequence them in, and so what you'll do is you set up an automation where you're doing like 200 people get added per day. And the reason for that is there's two components of this. It's like both the spam or can spam compliance and then also the ESP compliance. So can spam, in the US, you can legally contact these people without them having to opt in. If you follow it, like it's basically a set of guidelines. You can just go and use Perplexity and you can find it, right? But it's like, do they do you have a physical address in the email? Do you have, are you not spoofing the person you're sending from? Are you sending content that's relevant to the person? And in the B2B space, it's again, it's a little bit different on consumer, but when you're doing B2B, it's a little bit different. So that's one side of this. The other side is like when I'm importing to this ESP or this email service provider, if I import, say I go in and I drop in 20,000 emails, they're gonna be like, yo, where'd you get this list? And then you have to prove that basically, right?
Okay.
But when you do this shorter sequence, what you're doing is you're flying under the radar of that email sender. And because the data looks so good, you're not gonna erode their server, right? So it's it looks healthy. It looks, and also there's all this other stuff we layer on with this as well of paid ads for to ebook downloads, and you're also getting pumping it through organic. So you're layering on all those different angles or different entry points to join the list. But what you can do with this, and straight up, I'm going to do this literally this year. It's I'm going to grow a list from 0 to 100,000 subs in 12 months. It's going to be on the back of the podcast. And then within the email newsletter, I'm going to have a call to action section that's brought to you by Landing Cat. SEO, automatic SEO and CRO for e-commerce companies. And then, whatever the value prop is, call to action to learn more. That, again, will probably be our biggest driver of traffic as we move into the new year. The kicker here, the bigger thing here, is that audience of people, they're going to spend hours of time with me, listening to me, talk to these people that have deep knowledge and expertise in this space that I have no idea about, right? And what's going to naturally happen is because I'm introducing them to them in that time that they're spending with me, there's going to be this trust metric that's built on that. So a couple of things are going to happen. Number one, I'm going to get inbounded from those people. They're going to be like, hey, I want your service. Number two, they're going to inbound their friends because they're going to be like, oh, I've been listening to this. You have this problem. I have this solution. And then number three, what you're going to see from this is that over time, you're just going to become the authority in this space through this single vehicle, right? Which is this podcast and this email newsletter. And then the other thing that's going to happen is that you can then take that asset that you've built and go and negotiate co-distribution or co-marketing with other companies. Be like, hey, I want to have your CEO on this show, right? We're going to email it out to my 100,000 sub list. Would you email it out to your list as well? Boom. You just got I go to another company, and now we just did co-marketing with them. He comes in and he talks about email SMS marketing, right? And how to optimize for it. And now I just got to his whole audience. He got sent out. We give him clips for social. We just got on his social platforms. And again, there's all these levers that you can pull. I could probably talk about this for hours, but I know we got a 2-minute stop. So are there any questions around that I can try to answer?
No, I was just shutting up and letting you talk because I know we don't have very much time left. Is there any?
Sorry, I ran it on about all the other stuff rather than this. So yeah, have me on again. I'll come back in 6 months and talk about the progress.
Perfect, sounds good. Yeah. We'll do a catch up call in 6 months, and I'll let you tell me how to do the rest of it.
I love it. But yeah, final piece for anybody that's doing this, think about this as a financial portfolio. So when you start and you're young, 80% of everything that you're doing is going into paying your rent, right? And just surviving. 20% into investments. As the company matures and gets older, that flips, right? So it's 80% of what we're doing is into long-term investment. 20% is into short-term. This is totally changes if you raise money. If you raise money, your job is gas pedal down. Every channel that you can market through, you go and you market through. That's the whole point of raising money, right? Is because you have unlimited time, you have unlimited mental energy, and you have unlimited money. You're optimizing for those three resources to have abundance. So anyway, that's the last thing I'll leave with everybody. So
awesome, thanks, brother. I really appreciate you coming on, and thank you, man.
Absolutely, man. Totally.